Some thoughts on local government administration in Nigeria, and necessarily this subject will cover my experience in Nigeria, and specifically in Southwest Nigeria. What should local government do? How should we approach local government? I walk around streets in my neighborhood, and it's not just one state; it's multiple states, three of the states in Southwest Nigeria, and what you see is waste in the gutters, bad drainages, of course, electricity is a national problem. Transportation, yes. So you can stick to those four problems: waste management, roads and drainages, electricity, and water. Those are four major things that everybody wants. And if you solve that at scale, it improves the quality of life of everyone. So my understanding of how local government can manage these things is every local government currently as it is set up, even though it goes all the way back to years and years when you know the first set of districts were set up and how the laws were written, waste management would be with the local government, primary health care, primary school education, secondary school education, all those things are domiciled in local government. So you have the supervisor for works, you have supervisor for education, you have the health administrator dedicated to a local government. In my local government where I'm from, you have about 10 to 13 communities. Idosi local government. So you have Ayetoro Oshi, Ifaki Ido, Osi, Oriora. You have those communities, Ifishing, and all of them, go to Ido for administrative, directions. Whoever is the supervisor of works in that area should cover whatever roads construction you want to do, culverts, drainages, those things. But as we have learned over the last 15 years of this, no, well, 15 or so years of this dispensation, the Fourth Republic, 1999 to 2026 is 27 years actually. So what you see is that there's more power with the state government to do these things that are necessarily meant to be done by local government, and there's been consistent weakening of the local government system. And the much of this just shows that financing, the authority of financial administration, financial decisions sticks to the state government. This is a good time to look at the sharing formula. Federal government takes about, is it 50 or 55%? State government, all 36 of them share 20 something percent of federal allocation, and whatever is left, I think maybe less than 20% goes to local government. That formula has been adjusted, I think recently adjusted, such that local government can have more. But what we continue to see is that state governments continue to have more power over local governments. Financial autonomy is still, you know, unreachable at this time. All those jargons to say that the ideal local government system should cater to those four plus other four plus another four things, but just focusing on those four, you need a supervisor of works who is a professional at his work, not necessarily a political appointee or not necessarily a somebody appointed because they delivered their polling units. Even if that's going to be the case, I hate the system. But even if that's going to be the case, at least run the system properly, right? So that you know that the works supervisor or the health supervisor knows his onions. That's one side. Another side of it is financing. What we see in Nigeria is that taxes are not enough. So the finance, even the 16% or 20% that local governments get, by the time it gets to the local government, nowadays we're hearing 400 million, 300 to 400 million per month for each local government. Given the cost of things, they cannot manage all those things efficiently. But at least, what can they do with those monies? Some local governments, we're seeing them building roads, we're seeing them, doing ABC, building schools, and state governments are still also involved in that. I By the time you check the books, I haven't really done deep digging on the books of some of these local governments to see how much 400 million in a month can go to paying salaries, health management, roads maintenance, um, education maintenance, if they need to buy extra utilities or um, operational runnings of these our schools, school buses, fueling, and those things. If you look at the cost of things these days, you can already tell that that may not be enough. Then coupled with the fact that a lot of our local governments, you know, have appointees that feel entitled to the largesse or the money that government offers. So all of that to say that there is a theory in my school of economics that says a school of not necessarily economics but philosophy that says when administrative systems go beyond 250 people, it starts to become faulty. So if there is a household that has 5 people, you need 250 by 5 houses. That's about that's about 50 houses. So in a street or in a close or in an avenue in an area, 50 houses, 5 persons on the average in a house, they can manage themselves. They can call a WhatsApp meeting and then allocate their resources, pay money to the estate manager, to the avenue manager, who reports to chairman of the Lands Association for that time period. It may be in perpetuity. I mean, this person doesn't have everlasting power, and it can be rotated in 4 years or 1 year or 2 years. But everybody is familiar with all the things they use. Our power is generated by this IPP or by this solar mini grid or this wind energy. you know, our culverts are maintained every Saturday because everybody cleans, or we hire somebody within the neighborhood who gets 50K a month to manage these things. But by the time that estate combines with 10 other estates, 250 by 10 people, now you're talking 2,500 people. Is that what it is? Yes, you're talking 2,500 people. Then the meeting gets bigger. Then electing a chairman becomes a bit more complicated. Now there's more money, and now you have people's eyes stretching into those pockets. And now people are now thinking, how can I make the best of this opportunity? If I can be chairman here and I get some fame and I get some money, maybe I can be local government chairman. Maybe I can then run for senate because that's where the money is. So democracy, the bigger it gets, it incentivizes people to want to steal. Thieves, rogues, people who will cut corners to achieve power. Some people have money already, but they just want this power because there's something about it. There's some doors you cannot get into with your money. But being the president breaks every door, literally. So back to local government administration, when you um, give the state, and I'm saying the country now, the power, you give the president the power to dictate, to administer this much money. You have a large pocket in Abuja where everybody pays these billions monthly to these trillions into, and then there's one person who believes he can plan for everybody, 200 million of you. The local government chairman would have to bow to his whims and caprices. They have to, that's what you're seeing with the current president. Everybody wants to kowtow, everybody wants to beg to find favors because they know that this is, so that's the likelihood. That's what you, and it's not just Nigeria, by the way. You have seen Thomas Massey getting primary in America just because he won't kowtow to the central authority, to the guy. And so my summary is, if if local government would be effective, it has to be as the circle has to be as small as possible. If you want to play beyond the 250 circle, then maybe try 5,000. And then, the administrative system has to have the checks and balances that ensures that the way we were able to run 250 people efficiently, we can do the same for 5,000 people. And the early losses don't get too much. I've said a lot. And if there is a need for part two when the ideas come, I'll record again. No said.